Om Ajnanatimirandasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshurun Militam Nena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha.
Welcome everyone to this Sunday event. It's a special arrangement that we're making together so that we can hear about Krishna. And just by doing that, says the Bhagavad Gita, the Srimad Bhagavatam, Chaitanya Charitamrita, all the bhakti scriptures, if you can just drag yourself to a place where there is someone speaking about Krishna, and there's no motivation in the speaking, there's no money being exchanged, it's simply for glorification. This is called kirtan. And you can just hear that. The sound vibration enters within the heart, and you get an accumulation of what's called daivi sampat, or spiritual wealth. The bhakti scriptures also say that the same kind of enthusiasm that a business person might have for accumulating wealth. Anybody ever feel like that? Little enthusiasm for getting wealth? Same amount of time one would put into the effort of trying to find wealth, trying to keep wealth, trying to invest it properly. The bhakti scriptures say should be also invested in accumulating spiritual wealth. Daivi sampat. Just as a miser counts his or her coins over and over again to see what is the balance, how much is increased over time, and hoards gold. So similarly, a devotee hoards his or her mantras and the opportunity to hear about Krishna that time. Because we have a finite number of seconds in this world. And you can buy an application now on the internet that you can set up, and it will tell you exactly how many minutes and seconds you have left in your life. Everyone start to panic. Actually, you can't. That's not true. But if you could, it would be quite startling, I think. Everyone would immediately begin using the power of forced efficiency. You know, you get the most done in your household the day before you go on vacation, right? I saw a bumper sticker that once said, if it wasn't for the last minute, I wouldn't get anything done. But in this lifetime, I might think that I have forever. I might think maybe not forever, but maybe 5 million years. Or maybe it won't happen to me. There's a kind of covering potency that Maya or illusion has to make me think that I have all the time in the world. But the great Vaishnava saints say otherwise. Kamala dala jala jivana talamala. Think of yourself to be like a little drop of water that's resting on the outside of the leaf of the lotus plant, which is very waxy and allows the water to freely slip from side to side, and at any time, with a little slight breeze, it can all be knocked off. So think of your life like that. So today I want to look at a song written by Bhaktivinoda Thakur, and it begins with the refrain, Nam Gaye Gaura Madhura. We just happen to have a PowerPoint presentation of this, right? And we'll look at this song that was written by Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur, and we can sing some of the lyrics, because when you hear this song and it goes into your ears and heart, then you can sing it when you go to work, when you're driving in your car, when you're getting ready for your day. And so, if somebody would give me the song, a songbook, just give me one of the Vaishnava songbooks. So, Gaye Gaura Madhura. in a very sweet voice, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is singing. So this is written by Bhaktivinoda Thakur. Who's it written by? Yes, and Bhaktivinoda Thakur, one of the great teachers, master teachers of devotional service, who set up a way in which Krishna consciousness could be spread all over the world. And one of the ways that he and others like Narottam Das Thakur had used to spread Krishna consciousness and to instill Krishna consciousness in their own hearts and the hearts of others was through song. And Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu himself, who came 500 years ago, was called the most merciful incarnation of God, because he came to give Krishna consciousness freely to everyone, regardless of their qualification. No special qualification necessary. And the way he gave that Krishna consciousness was through singing. So it says, Gaye, Gaura, Madhura, Sware, in a very sweet voice. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is singing this song. What song is he singing? This Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. So this is a mantra. And many great Vaishnava saints have written about this particular mantra. For instance, Rupa Goswami says, Nikila Shuti Mauli Ratnamala Duti Nirajita Pada Pankajanta. Ai Mukya Kaleru Pasyamanam Paritastvam Harinama Samshrayami. That if you look through all the Vedic scriptures, and that will take you a long time, because there are millions and millions of verses, you'll find that the primary purpose and the ultimate purpose that all of these scriptures are pointing to is this glorification of the name of God. This is the acme. And then he says that liberated people sing this song. It's a song for those who are no longer attached to the idea that I can find some happiness in this world. Liberated people don't necessarily give up their jobs. That's a shocking statement, isn't it? Because when I say liberated person, don't we sometimes think of a person who's just picks up some cloth from the ground and lives in a cave or under a bridge or something like that and doesn't interact with society? Do you ever think like that? Liberated person. But actually in the Bhagavad Gita, Krishna says that one should go on with one's work in this world. In fact, in the 3rd chapter of the Bhagavad Gita called Karma Yoga, Krishna says, even I go on with my work. Even I perform prescribed duties to set a good example for people. Otherwise, the whole world would fall apart. But he says to Arjuna in the 8th chapter of the Bhagavad Gita, Tasmat sarveshu kaleshu mama nusmara yudyacha mayarpitamano buddhir mami vaisyatsya samshayaha. And that is, go on with your fight here, Arjuna. You're a warrior. You have to do your duty. I mean, no one is less wanted than a policeman who won't do his duty. I've had that happen before on Sankirtan, going on book distribution. I need some protection, but they're like, nah, sorry, can't help you. A warrior like Arjuna has to go on with his duty, and at the same time remember Krishna, and Krishna says in this way you'll become liberated. This is part of our program. This is a word from our sponsor. Now a word from our sponsor. Today bringing us the Srimad Bhagavatam set, all the way from Indonesia. So what are some of the points so far? Just a few things. Anything you heard so far?
Hare Krishna Maharaj. One thing that stuck from the beginning of the class where you talked about how much gets done at the last moments. And I'm sure a lot of people will agree because we had a Bhakti Vaibhav class, Bhakti Vaibhav exam today morning. And I can tell you how much can get done at the last moment.
Yeah. And my point in connection to that was this lifetime is also very short. It's a last moment kind of opportunity. According to the Vedas, there's a way in which we've been going through many different lifetimes. And when we get this opportunity to have a human body, it's a special kind of opportunity. And you only get a small window. So take advantage of it. And actually, I was saying that by way of appreciating all of you for taking advantage coming here. Yes.
Maharaj, the phrase you tell that how Maya make us to think that we have a lot of time, and that we always come across whenever we go out for book distribution, we find like how people are like even on weekends they are so much busy, and when we ask them they don't know time. That we are like we can clearly see that how this is so true.
Srila Prabhupada wrote about that in one of his first Back to Godhead magazines, because he was not only printing them, but he was distributing them himself. And what did people tell him frequently? Sorry, no time. So he wrote this is chronic disease of modern man. No time. Chronic disease. What else? Yes.
You mentioned about Devi Sampat.
Yes?
So we see around most of us are stuck in gathering Sampatti. So, but Devi Sampat is something to look for.
Yes. Charu? Yeah, there's an accumulation. You actually accumulate that, pious credits. It's said in this book, Srimad Bhagavatam, Punya Shravana Kirtana, that you get pious credits just by hearing. Yes.
Hare Krishna, Prabhu.
Hare Krishna.
Prabhuji, I always was looking for meaning of liberation in many different definitions, and today you said that liberated people are no longer looking for happiness from the world, and that's very, very much making sense to me.
Thank you for bringing us back to that point. It's a nice point you reflected on, and that is that it's the way we do our work, the consciousness in which we do our work that makes us liberated. Because people may be apparently doing the same kinds of tasks side by side, but one person is attached to the result and the fruit of the work, and the other person is doing it as a devotion to God and giving the fruit away. And the activity is the same. They may have the same hairstyle. They may wear the same clothes, same kind of car. But one's a liberated activity and the other one is binding. Thank you. Nice point. How is everybody now? We were challenged, right? We get a lot of challenges in life to see if we can actually stay focused. Yes, Shalabahu.
Hare Krishna Maharaj. I like that point you mentioned that life is just like a water in the lotus leaves. It's not attached to the leaves. It's any time it can be slip off.
Yeah, I like that word. It's not a phrase. It's not attachable. We're not attachable to this world. Asango hyayam purushaha. The Vedas say in a startling way that we really have no connection at all here. We have no association here at all. But I imagine myself to be connected. And because of that, I suffer in various ways. Yeah. So back to the song we're looking. Can you all see it okay? So I'll sing the first line and then please repeat. Gaye Gaura Madhura Sware. Gaye Gaura Madhura Sware. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Everyone.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare.
Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Gaye Gaura Madhura Sware. Nam Gaye Gaura Madhura Sware. Grihe Tako Bane Tako Sada Hari Bole Dako. Grihe Tako Bane Tako Sukhe Duke Bhulo Nako Vadane Hari Nam Korore. Nam Gaye Gaura Madhura Sware. Nam Gaye Gaura Madhura Sware. Go back. So, if you live in a house or an apartment, or if you live in the forest, Sada Hari Bole Dako. Don't forget this chanting. Go on chanting. Continue to chant. This is the way out. Sometimes it seems hopeless that I'm stuck in this world, and although I've been presented a process of self-realization, but I'm so unfortunate I can't even take it. What do I do now? Chaitanya Mahaprabhu says, go on chanting. If you happen to have a big fancy house and you're worried about paying the mortgage and the fire insurance and the earthquake insurance and your life insurance and your health insurance, and there's great anxiety in your heart, how will I become free from this situation? Or if you're homeless and you live without any means, you don't know where to go in life, you've lost everything, either can happen. One who's now a king, in the next lifetime, they're waiting to experience the karma of being a homeless person. The person that you see homeless on the corner, in the last life was a king. And now that person is using up their karma of living out their life on the street. We are playthings in the hands of the three modes of material nature. Krishna says this in the Bhagavad Gita. Daivahi esha gunamayi mama maya duratyaya mameva ye prapadyante maya me tam tarantite. It's very difficult to overcome these modes of material nature, so don't feel bad. You're not the only one. Everyone's going through this. And then Chaitanya Mahaprabhu says, just go on chanting. Sukhe duke bhulonako vadane harinam korore. It's so simple. It's something that everyone can do, whether you're happy or you're in distress. And both will come. They're two sides of the same coin in the material world. Bhulonako, don't forget to chant the Harinam. Go on chanting the Harinam. Nam Gaye Gaura Madhura Sware. Nam Gaye Gaura Madhura Sware. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare.
Krishna Krishna,
Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Gaye Gaura Madhura Sware. Grihe tako bane tako sadahari bole dako. Grihe tako bane tako sadahari bole dako. Suke duke bhulo nako vadane hari nam korore. Suke duke vadane hari nam korore. Nam Gaye Gaura Madhura Sware. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Nam Gaye Gaura Madhura Sware. Maya jalle badda hoye, acho miche kajloye. Maya jalle badda hoye, Ekono Chaitanya peye Radha Madhav nam bolore. Nam Gaye Gaura Madhura Sware. So in this next line, Bhaktivinoda Thakur tells us about the Maya Jale. In the entangling network of illusion. So this entangling network of illusion starts when one becomes enamored with the material body and thinks, I am a material body. In the Bhagavad Gita, Krishna says, Dehinosmin yata dehe Komaranyavaram jara tata dehantara praptir dhiras tatra namuyate. That the embodied soul passes from boyhood to youth to old age and then goes into another body at death. And that a self-realized soul is not bewildered by such a change. And then he also says that this body is just like a shirt or a coat. And you'll wear it for some time, and then you change it. And just as there's seasonal changes, and you wear different coats, so there are different desires that we have in this world, and therefore material nature accommodates us. Specifically according to our desire, she gives us various bodies, one after the other. Srila Prabhupada explains how there's two potencies of Maya. One is called the throwing potency, and the other is the covering. But one is distanced from devotional service and the devotees by the throwing potency of Maya. So one has to be careful to keep close to good association. And the second potency is the covering potency. That when I'm in a miserable condition of life, I think I'm okay. I'm optimistic that everything is going to be all right. Bhaktivinoda Thakur in this song is saying, be careful of this useless life of illusion when you're not connected to devotional service. This is a life of futility. Then he says, Ekono Chaitanya Peye Radha Madhav Nam Bolo Re. Just one time, you are bound in Maya's net and forced to toil fruitlessly. Now you have attained full consciousness in the human form of life, so chant the names of Radha Madhava. That's not very much to ask. When we're in this situation, all we have to do is call out the names of the Lord. Prabhupada tells the story of some devotees whose parents had been against the chanting of the holy name. And when the mother was passing away from the world, the children went and said, please chant the Lord's names. Say Hare Krishna. He said, I won't say anything. And then she died. And Prabhupada pointed out the same energy and breath that she could have used from denying. She could have just said, Radha Madhava, Hare Krishna. So while we have the opportunity, when we have the chance, Bhaktivinoda Thakur is saying, take this opportunity, chant. Always chant the names of the Lord, and you'll become free from this net of illusion. Nam Gaye Gaura Madhura Sware. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Nam Gaye Gaura Madhura Sware. Jivana hoy lo shesh, na bhajile rishike. Jivan Bhakti Vinorupa Shek Paranam Rase Matore. Nam Gaye Gaura Madhura Sware. Nam Gaye Gaura Madhura Sware. So Bhaktivinoda Thakur brings out this point. Jivana, your life, hoilo shesh, come to an end at any time. Na bhajile Rishikesh. And you haven't properly worshipped the Lord of the senses, Rishikesh. Krishna is the closest one to us, and he's also our best friend. But I never think of him. I'm always concerned with myself and my own comfort, and I never try to serve him. What Bhaktivinoda Thakur gives is Upadesh. Bhaktivinoda Upadesh. This is worth taking. A lot of people have advice. Catch a common cold and you'll find out everyone has a cure. Bhaktivinoda has the cure for this ongoing, repeated cycle of birth and death in the material world and the miseries that ensue. From that, he says, Ek bar nam rase matore. One time, try to experience this taste for chanting the Lord's name, just one time. Because if you can get one mustard seed of taste for repeating the Lord's names, then you'll be able to control your senses. You'll feel happiness in your heart. You'll be fortified against all the temptations of Maya in this world just by chanting the holy name with a tiny little bit of taste. Nam Gaye Gaura Madhura Sware. Nam Gaye Gaura Madhura Sware. Nam Gaye Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Gaye Gaura Madhura Sware Nam 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 Gaye Gaura Madhura Sware Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Please get seats. Get seats for the guests. Gaye Gaura Madhura Sware Nam Gaye Gaura Madhura Sware Grihe tako bane tako Sadahari bole dako Tuke bulo nako varane hari nam korore Gaye Gaura Madhura Sware Nam Gaye Gaura Madhura Sware Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Haribol. Gaye Gaura Madhura Sware Nam Gaye Gaura Madhura Sware Maya Jale Bado Hoye Acho Michle Kajloye Ekono Chaitanya Pe Radha Madhav Nam Bolore Radha Madhava Nam Bolore Radha Madhava Nam Bolo Re. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Radha Madhava Nam Bolo Re. Radha Madhava Nam Bolo Re. Jivana hoilo shesh na bhajile Hrishikesh. Bhakti Vinod Upadesh Ek Bar Nam Rase Matore. Bhakti Gaye Gaura Madhu Sware. Nam Gaye Gaura Madhu Sware. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Gaye Gaura Madhu Sware. Nam Gaye Gaura Madhu Sware. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Nitai Gaura Haribol, 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 Nitai Gaura Haribol. Go Premanande. So every song that Bhaktivinoda Thakur wrote was a runaway bestseller and top of the charts hit for eternity. Many songs become a hit and then people become tired of them. In the 1960s, there was a singer named Chubby Checker. And if anybody knows who Chubby Checker is, you know. Okay, very good. Chubby Checker wrote a song called The Twist. I can even do the twist. can show you how the dance goes. Back in the 60s, people used to write songs that went to dances. There was Watusi and the twist and the jerk. There was all kinds of moves. So it would become popular and everyone would listen to the song and they would start doing the dance. So it's a similar entreaty. He's asking, sing this and dance in ecstasy, but it's a different vibration altogether. But Chubby Checker, he was what was known as a one-hit wonder. That means he wrote a song that he regretted he wrote. He made him a rich man, but he became so tired of singing the twist everywhere he went. So everyone would say, I want to hear that song again, I hear the song again. Sing the twist. And you have to sing it over and over again. But now nobody sings it. Everyone's grown tired of it, and he grew tired of it. Whereas with this Hare Krishna mantra, you can test for yourself that it's a different vibration, because devotees like Haridas Thakur, I mentioned earlier, Ai Mukta Kaleyaru Pasyamanam. This is something that's done by liberated people. This is not for the radio station. This is for Krishna, and it's transcendental. Ai Mukta Kaleyaru Pasyamanam. They worship, they do this upasyamanam, this kind of worship by singing the Hare Krishna Mahamantra, and they never get tired of it, ever. 16 words, 32 syllables, over and over and over again. Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur sat and chanted 1 billion names over 10 years. That means you got to put a little message on your email saying, I'll be back in 10 years. And you tell your boss and everybody else, I got a little something to do for the next 10 years. I ain't coming in. And he didn't care about the external world. He simply sat in the jungle, kept an umbrella over his head. When it poured rain, his disciples would bring him a little something to eat, his followers. And he chanted for 10 years. Haridas Thakur used to chant 3 times 64 rounds. Many devotees make a vow to chant 16 rounds. They say, oh, very difficult. But actually, Haridas, the standard is 64. But Prabhupada lowered it for us. It was a dispensation. He said, okay, you can't do 64, then you do 48. And they came back and said, not possible. You do 32, can't do it. 16, bas. That's the bottom line. You have to have numerical strength. And Haridas Thakur, he's the Nama Acharya. He set the example for chanting, which is Kirtaniya Sadahari, constantly. And he would chant 64 rounds times 3. That was his daily vow. Of course, in the Nectar of Instruction, Prabhupada points out that nowadays it's not possible for us to imitate Haridas Thakur, so I'm not advocating that. I'm advocating what Prabhupada advocated, because that's my job. And he said that chant 16 rounds, at least, but work very hard to spread Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's mission all over the world. And for that, there are jobs. Nobody is left unemployed in Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's movement unless they want to be. Because there's so much service to do to spread Krishna consciousness all over the world that we need everybody's help. Everybody's included in this very, very busy world. So we can take Bhaktivinoda Thakur's advice and try to get a taste for chanting the holy name. And there are ways to do that. One way is that your attitude must be adjusted. Or at least, let me say, my attitude must be adjusted. I hardly doubt yours does, but mine does. The attitude of the performer of the chanting is what is the most vital. Have you ever heard the statement that your attitude will determine your altitude? Have you ever heard the stronger statement that attitude is everything? Have you heard that? Yes. Maybe even a poster in your office right now. And Srila Prabhupada said something similar in the preface to the Nectar of Devotion, that the advancement of the practitioner of Krishna consciousness is dependent on his or her attitude. So what is the attitude of the practitioner of devotional service? Well, there are 3 words that Prabhupada uses in various places, and he doesn't use them in a string as I'm about to, but this mantra-like fusion of these 3 words is very good to keep in your pocket. And now I give them to you. Are you ready? Yes. Strict, serious, and sincere. These 3 things. So strict in your practice is actually a relief, because the mind always wants to go out and play. At least in the conditioned state, the mind always has another idea that is complete idiocy. And when I go along with my mind, I end up feeling unfulfilled. I end up feeling low self-esteem. But when I go along with the request of the spiritual master and the scripture and the great saints who say, strictly follow the easy path, which is, here, take these 16 rounds. In our case, in our sampradaya, we're taking 16 rounds as a marker. People have other markers, but we're following our acharya, and we take that marker, say 16 rounds at least. And if, Hare Krishna, I will. If I take that, it's a great relief. And strict means that I'm rigorous in sticking to my vow. That's what strict means. An example of this is given. The self-realized liberated soul, Srila Raghunath Das Goswami, performed his devotional service like lines in stone. Lines in stone means that he didn't waver one way or the other. That's strict. And that is a happy life. It sounds the opposite because, especially if you come from the hippie era, which says, do whatever you want, whenever you want. It feels good, do it. That actually doesn't bring satisfaction. Krishna mentions in the Bhagavad Gita, Raga Dvesha Vimuktaistu Indriyaish, Raga Dvesha Vimuktaistu Vishayan Indriyaish Charan Atma Vasher Vidhyatma Prasadam Arigachati. If you follow the regulative principles of freedom, you will attain the complete mercy of the Lord. In the next verse he says, Prasade sarvadukanam hanirasyo pajayate prasanna chetaso yasu buddhi paryavatishtate. When you attain that mercy, you'll know it. You'll feel it. Because number 1, Krishna says, when you get my mercy, your misery will go away. What is misery? Duk. Duk means you're out of alignment. It's a simple thing, actually. I'm out of alignment. That's why I'm suffering. That's why I feel pain in my heart and especially in my mind. I'm out of alignment. So if you align yourself with your strict practice of chanting Hare Krishna every day, you'll be in alignment and you'll feel happiness in your mind. You'll feel spiritual self-esteem. Prasade sarvadukkana hanira. All your duk will be finished. Asyopajayate prasanna chetasa. Your consciousness will become prasanna, which is the first sign of advancement in devotional service, and that is, I just feel happy. I just do. And I don't know why. And I don't even care. I just am. I was once talking to Srila Radhanath Maharaj about management, and he gave me some of the best advice I've ever heard. He said, the duty of the manager is to be blissful at all costs. And another great instruction I got in management was from Srila Jayadvaita Maharaj. When I took a seminar in Dallas, Texas, with a lot of you from ISV called Management and Leadership, and I was put in charge of our group. We had about 6 groups, and at the end of the weekend, it was 4 or 5 days, we had to put on a presentation. Were you there, Malini? We had to put on a presentation, and they only gave us nothing. They didn't give us any time to get ready. It was the evening time, and they did it on purpose. So they said, these are real-life circumstances. Now figure it out, how you're going to organize your whole group and do a presentation tomorrow. So I was crunching the numbers and thinking, and Jayadvaita Maharaj was in my group, and I said, how about, well, we're going to have to meet here to discuss this. How about 7:30 tomorrow? Someone said, that's Bhagavatam class. And Jai Maharaj looked at me with such disgust. And with disdain in his voice, he said, oh, great, the old ISKCON sacrificed Bhagavatam class for the sake of management. And therein I had my greatest lesson of the weekend, which is don't sacrifice anything for the Bhagavatam class. Be strict. First, do the Bhagavatam. First, do your japa. Don't try to face the world without japa. Don't try to face the world without reading your Bhagavatam or hearing from in the class the Bhagavatam. That is risky. So be strict in your practice of your vows. They may be small vows. It doesn't matter where you start. You don't have to start at 16 rounds. You start where you can, and I'll get to that in a moment. Serious means, actually, what does serious mean? Please look it up. There's a nice definition of serious, and it's just now coming. Nam Gaye, Gaura Madhura Sware. See, I chanted Hare Krishna and I found it. Serious means thoughtful and attentive to details. Thoughtful. You have to be thoughtful. This is mentioned also in the Srimad Bhagavatam. Tachcharadhana munayo jnana vairagya yuktaya pashyantyatmani chatmanam bhaktya shuta grihitaya. Says that the thoughtful devotee who engages in devotional service thinks about, weighs out the importance of practicing devotional service. It's thinking about thoughtful. This is serious, that you're thoughtful about this. And keeps it in mind, the weighted average of every one of the activities that he or she may perform during the day. This is a part of our attitude of seriousness. And third comes sincere, which means free from pretense or deceit. I'm not doing this to show off. And I'm going to read you a purport from the 3rd chapter of the Bhagavad Gita, number 7. And I will read a portion of the purport in which Prabhupada gives a very nice description of the sincere approach to devotional service. The end of his statement says that a sincere sweeper in the street is better than a charlatan meditator. That is, don't make a show. You don't have to show off to anybody except to Krishna. And in that way, you just have to be steady. So this verse, yes, Twindriyani manasa niyamya bharaterjuna karmindriyai karma yogam asakta sa vishishite. And we'll scroll down to the purport and translation. On the other hand, if a sincere person tries to control the active senses by the mind and begins karma yoga in Krishna consciousness without attachment, he is by far superior. Instead of becoming a pseudo-transcendentalist for the sake of wanton living and sense enjoyment, it is far better to remain in one's own business and execute the purpose of life, which is to get free from material bondage and enter into the kingdom of God. The prime Swarga Gati, or goal of self-interest, is to reach Vishnu. The whole institution of Varna Ashram is designed to help us reach this goal. A householder can also reach this destination by regulated service in Krishna consciousness. By what? For self-realization, one can live a controlled life as prescribed in the Shastras and continue carrying out his business without attachment. And in that way make progress. A sincere person who follows this method is far better situated than the false pretender who adopts show bottle spiritualism to cheat the innocent public. Do you know what a show bottle is? Well, in medicine shops, they keep this big bottle and they put water with red dye in it. There's nothing in it except for water and red dye, but they put it and it looks very fancy and, ooh, look, red stuff. It looks powerful, but there's nothing there. There's nothing in it. In Japan, when you go by the restaurants, you look in every window. It's actually a rule that they have to show exactly what the food looks like in the restaurant. And so they have recreated out of plastic every dish that the restaurant offers, but don't try to eat that, or anything else for that matter. My point is that one can take a lot of trouble to show oneself in a certain way, but it's not worth the effort because nobody's actually watching. Nobody really cares. Sometimes my ego may tell me, oh, everyone's looking at me now. Look how intense my japa is. People must be watching, but they're not. They really don't care. They're battling with their own mind and senses. Don't waste your energy thinking about it. Try to look inwardly, says the Shastra. Try to see, am I pleasing Krishna? Keep your relationship inward and see, can I do something sincere? Can I find that one drop of sincerity that's actually there in my heart? It's there somewhere. If I could find it. Neil Young, one of the rock and roll singers, who's heard of him before? There, 1, 2, 3. Okay. Getting closer to the generation. Neil Young, keep me searching for a heart of gold. How's the whole song go? Do you remember? And I'm growing old, he says. I'm searching for a heart of gold. He's looking everywhere, he says in his song. Keep me searching for a heart of gold. It's pretty much like Neil Young, right? And I'm growing old. Appreciate that song, looking for that heart of gold. Look for your own heart of gold. That's what the sincerity is. Try to find that one drop of sincerity. If you go to Chandi Chowk, and you got to go at least once in your life to Chandi Chowk. Chandi Chowk in Old Delhi. And there, only reason I can think of going there is to visit Gulab Singh. Gulab Singh's got the longest standing perfumery, sells rare oils. Indradyumna Maharaj shops there, and if Indradyumna Maharaj shops there, it's good stuff. You can buy a little bottle of oil for $5,000. He showed me, did Mr. Singh, a bottle worth $20,000 of pure musk. It was about that big. And people from corporations come from all over and they buy the pure thing. They take it home. But if you go in and ask Mr. Singh, I want a bottle of sincerity, he'll say, I'm sorry, we could not find any within our price range. You have to get your own. And if you can find one drop of that sincerity, your whole spiritual life will be nourished by that sincerity. This is what sincere attitude in devotional service is. Look within. Find that one drop of sincerity. It is the most valuable thing that you have. Your car is not valuable. It is built to break down. I hate to tell you this, but they thought about it carefully. Let's see, it'll cost them $50,000 and it'll break in 5 years. That means they'll have to buy it again. It'll wear out, your body will wear out, everything around you has a limited shelf life. But this sincerity, if you find one drop of it, that it connects you to the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And that is the most profound substance on earth that one can find, and you have to look for it within your own heart. You have to mine for it. This is the attitude of sincerity in practicing the devotional service. Wherever you start from, if you look for that sincerity first and you say, please, no pretense, no deceit. I don't want to be somebody I'm not. I'm simply going to try the fallible person I am. I admit it, I'm fallen, and I need help. I sincerely need help, Krishna. And Queen Kunti says, Janmaishvarya Shruta Shribir Eda Mana Madat Puman Naivar Hat Yabitatum Vai Twama Kinchana Gocharam. There are many ways in which I can become intoxicated very easily and become estranged from that sincerity that's naturally there in my heart, that way in which I naturally call out to God. That's what bhakti is. It's prayer. Bhakti is prayer. You can't pray if you think you're the man. You can't pray if you think there's no God. You can't pray if you think God is void or impersonal, because who are you praying to? You pray because you have faith and sincerity, and you're calling out to the Supreme Personality of Godhead, please help me. That's the essence of bhakti. And that's what Queen Kunti says. Forget all the other pretense. The beauty you think you might have, it's borrowed. The wisdom you have, people oftentimes try to cultivate knowledge. Why? So much knowledge someone has. Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur used to tell his disciples that they couldn't keep books in their room. He didn't want them collecting a library, because he didn't want them studying many books and thinking, now I know everything. And did you ever meet anybody who knows everything? I did. I met when Sri Govinda Datta was here. I know he was on our party. We were going door to door. I knocked on the door and the man came out. I showed him the Bhagavad Gita. He said, I know everything. I immediately went and I got all the other devotees. I said, you got to get up here fast, because I just met the guy who knows everything. Don't be that guy. He didn't get a Bhagavad Gita. He wouldn't give 1 penny. His heart was not open. Be the guy who I don't know anything. That's a kinchana gochara. Kinchana means I got something now. Don't have anything. That's how you get Krishna's mercy. That's what Queen Kunti says. And this is the attitude of sincerity. I have nothing going for me, my Lord. Please save me. I am that drop of water on a lotus leaf that can slide off at any minute, and that is a fact. We are dealing with facts. And the Prabhupada used to say this is not something sentimental. Dehinosmin yata dehe komaranyavadamjara. You're changing bodies, that is a fact. And you will leave this body, that is a fact. You will have some regrets, that is a fact, unless you fully take shelter of prayer, because prayer is bhakti. All the world traditions where there is prayer are bhakti traditions. Christianity, bhakti. Islam, bhakti. There are many others, no prayer to God because there is no God, or I'm God, no bhakti. But this just happens to be the most informed system of bhakti in the world. The most nuanced, the best presented, the most systematized, so that anybody can take it and understand clearly who God is. And oftentimes, when Srila Prabhupada was presenting to people, he would say, Krishna is God, he's the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Now, prove he's not. If you have another idea, then you tell us what it is. You bring him forward, who is your God? And we'll say, okay, but if you don't have a clear conception, then take this one. Take Krishna, that's it. And in sincere consciousness, one is simple. One simply says, I simply accept that I don't know. I'll take from higher authority. And if you carefully study, using your intelligence, which includes doubting the process at first, and go deeply within it, you'll see this is the best, most detailed presentation of bhakti in the world. The reason we pray. It has nothing to do with culture. It has everything to do with the eternal soul's relationship with the Supreme Soul, who's within everyone's heart. Same Supreme who's in the heart of a cat, in the heart of a dog. As Krishna says in the Bhagavad Gita, Vidya Vinaya Sampane, Brahmane Gavihastini, Shuni Chaiva Shupakecha, Pandita Samadarshi. The really learned person thinks like this. He sees everyone equally because he sees, or she sees, that there's a spiritual soul within everyone's heart, and seated next to that soul is the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And one can connect to that Supreme by the process of prayer with great sincerity. And the greatest of all prayers, according to Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, and all the bhakti scriptures and the great liberated souls, is Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. One other attitude that one must have to be successful in bhakti is that you must be careful. That's pretty easy, right? Be careful, because what I have, I must not take for granted. it can slip away. It does slip away. If you look at the history of the world, many people had it and they lost it. If you look in the recent history of the Krishna consciousness movement, maybe more people had it and lost it than people who had it and kept it. Why is that? There's one reason: not being careful enough. Ever have your mother tell you, you can't be too careful? It's a fact. In devotional service, you have to protect, you have to be careful. Don't take it for granted. Go out in the middle of the night with a flashlight. I do sometimes to see my garden when I'm just planting in the spring. It's like, nobody eat this now. I tell them, they don't listen, so I come out with a flashlight. In the middle of the night when they have their snacks, all the little slugs and everyone say, okay, you have to go to the park now. We'll collect you up and put you in a box and transport you somewhere else. You can't eat all this. So you have to guard over your bhakti creeper very carefully, and don't take it for granted that your service will go on and on and on unless you're very careful about it. And have this guarded mentality that I've been given something very special to take care of, and I should be careful to keep it. If we could look at Bhagavatam 3:6-36, please. And we'd like to welcome all the wonderful devotees who've joined us online. Which camera am I on right now? So I can look right into the camera. Ramananda Saka? Ramananda, which camera? Which camera am I on? Hare Krishna. I have my obeisances to all the devotees who are on the internet watching us here at ISV tonight. Everyone please give them a Hari Bol. Thank you for joining us. We want to connect more and more devotees through this transcendental sound vibration, and we're so thrilled that you're online. And several devotees are also on the telephone listening as well right now. And I'm getting notes. This is exciting. Okay. Oh, that's really big news. I'll save this for a few minutes. So I want to read to you this last purport as food for thought about chaste consciousness. Chaste consciousness. And the verse is 3:6-36. And I'm going to go right down to the translation. It says, in spite of my inability, whatever I have been able to hear from the spiritual master and whatever I could assimilate, I am now describing in glorification of the Lord by pure speech. For otherwise my power of speaking would remain unchaste. And the purport, the purification of the conditioned soul. Is everyone okay? Yes. Keep going? Yes. Okay. The purification of the conditioned soul necessitates purification of his consciousness. By the presence of consciousness, the presence of the transcendental soul is verified. And as soon as consciousness leaves the body, the material body is not active. Consciousness is perceived, therefore, by activities. The theory put forward by empiric philosophers that consciousness can remain in an inactive state is the proof of their poor fund of knowledge. One should not become unchaste by stopping the activities of pure consciousness. If the activities of pure consciousness are stopped, certainly the conscious living force will be otherwise engaged, because unless engaged in consciousness, the consciousness has no standing. Consciousness cannot be silent even for a moment. When the body does not act, the consciousness acts in the form of dreams. Unconsciousness is artificial. By induced extraneous help, it remains for a limited period. But when the intoxication of the drug is finished, or when one is awake, the consciousness again acts earnestly. Maitreya's statement is that in order to avoid unchaste conscious activities, he was trying to describe the unlimited glories of the Lord, although he did not have the ability to describe them perfectly. This glorification of the Lord is not a product of research, but the result of hearing submissively from the authority of the spiritual master. It is also not possible to repeat all that one has heard from his spiritual master, but one can narrate as far as possible by one's honest endeavor. It does not matter whether the Lord's glories are fully explained or not. One must attempt to engage one's bodily, mental, and verbal activities in the transcendental glorification of the Lord. Otherwise, such activities will remain unchaste and impure. The existence of the conditioned soul can be purified only by the method of engaging mind and speech in the service of the Lord. The Tridandi Sannyasi of the Vaishnav school accepts 3 rods, representing the vow to engage in the service of the Lord with body, mind, and speech, whereas the Ekadandi Sannyasi takes the vow to become one with the Supreme. Since the Lord is the Absolute, there is no distinction between him and his glories. The glories of the Lord, as chanted by the Vaishnav Sannyasi, are as substantial as the Lord himself. And thus, while glorifying the Lord, the devotee becomes one with him in transcendental interest, although he remains eternally a transcendental servitor. This simultaneously one and different position of the devotee makes him eternally purified, and thus his life becomes a complete success. I submit that you could live off of that one purport for the rest of your life, if you made that your manifesto. As I said earlier, this philosophy that we're following is the most explicated of any wisdom tradition in the world, any bhakti tradition in the world. One purport of Srila Prabhupada could be the foundation for an entire movement. There's so much in this. So, one of the aspects of devotional service, which is particularly important, is to establish one's home as a temple. There's no difference, in other words, between the temple at home or the temple that you come to where you see the image of the Lord. Once, in about 1974, Srila Prabhupada was visiting in Detroit. I said about, I'm not sure the exact date, approximate date. And he was surrounded by a group of brahmacharis and sannyasis about this big. Look around and see. Now imagine that they're all brahmacharis and sannyasis. That's the way it used to be in the old days. Things have changed. And there was one poor householder in the front row. Actually, he was a little to the side in the front row. And he was feeling like the ugly duckling. In fact, that was the way we used to make people feel when they were householders. It was like the ugly duckling. And after Prabhupada spoke about Krishna consciousness and he asked for questions, this very sincere householder with 2 kids raised his hand and he said, all these sannyasis and brahmacharis are here dedicated full-time to the process of Krishna consciousness. I have a house. I have a mortgage. I have kids to feed. What can I do? And Prabhupada said, this temple is made of brick and stone. Your house is made of brick and stone. This temple, the only business is Krishna. If in your house the only business is Krishna, no difference. Haribol. Yeah, that's a Haribol. And that's what we heard from Bhaktivinoda Thakur. Grihe tako bani tako shada hariboli tako. Some people say the first part, Grihe tako bani tako. Doesn't matter if you live in the forest as a sannyasi or as a grihasta. Don't forget the second part, shada hariboli tako. That's the part that counts. You got to go on chanting. Thank you very much, everyone, for coming tonight.
Nachari Armarman, Nachari Armarman, Nachari Armarman, Nachari Armarman, hey, Nachari Armarman, Nachari Armarman, Nachari Armarman, Nachari Armarman.